The late afternoon sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden glow across the Nevada desert. Keanu Reeves adjusted his sunglasses and rolled his shoulders, trying to ease the tension after a long day on set. The film shoot in Las Vegas had gone well, but he was looking forward to some quiet time back at his hotel. Keanu had decided to take the scenic route back, driving himself along Boulder Highway instead of having someone from the production team drop him off. There was something about the open road that helped clear his mind. The radio played softly in the background as he drove, his thoughts drifting between the day's work and plans for tomorrow. Traffic was light on this stretch of road. Most tourists stuck to the glittering strip, leaving Boulder Highway relatively empty as the workday came to an end. Keanu liked it that way. Fame had its perks, but moments of solitude had become precious to him over the years. He slowed as he approached a curve in the road, noticing how the sunset painted the mountains in the distance with shades of purple and orange. It was the kind of view that reminded him why he loved taking drives like this. That's when he saw it. Something small moving along the shoulder of the highway. At first he thought it might be an animal, perhaps a stray dog. But as he got closer, his heart skipped a beat. It wasn't an animal. It was a child. Keanu immediately hit the brakes, pulling his car onto the shoulder about 20 yards ahead of the small figure. He checked his mirrors before opening his door, scanning for any other people or vehicles nearby. There were none. Just an empty stretch of highway, the desert, and somehow impossibly a tiny child walking alone. "Hey there," Keanu called out gently as he approached, keeping his movements slow and non-threatening. The toddler, he could now see it was a little boy no more than 3 years old, stopped walking and turned toward him with wide eyes. The child wore a faded blue t-shirt with cartoon characters on it, tiny jeans and light-up sneakers that were covered in dust. His face was streaked with dirt and tears, his brown hair tousled by the desert wind. The sight made Keanu's chest tighten. "Are you okay, buddy?" he asked, crouching down to be at eye level with the boy. The toddler just stared back at him, thumb now in his mouth, his other arm clutching a well-loved stuffed rabbit. Keanu looked up and down the highway again. No cars had stopped. No frantic parent was running toward them. There was just the sound of occasional traffic passing by. Most drivers not even slowing down as they passed the scene unfolding on the shoulder. "Where's your mom or dad?" he asked, but the child remained silent. Keanu noticed the boy was shivering slightly despite the warm evening air. Fear, he realized. The poor kid was terrified. "My name's Keanu," he said with a gentle smile. "What's your name?" The child took his thumb out of his mouth but still didn't speak. Instead, he took a small step closer to Keanu, seemingly deciding that this stranger might be safer than being alone on the highway. "It's not safe out here, buddy. How about we sit in my car while we figure out what to do? It's okay if you don't want to talk right now." Keanu slowly stood and held out his hand. After a moment's hesitation, the little boy reached up and put his tiny hand in Keanu's. The simple gesture of trust nearly broke his heart. They walked to the car together, and Keanu helped the child into the passenger seat, making sure he was secure. He turned up the heat a little, noticing goosebumps on the boy's arms. "Are you hungry?" Keanu asked, reaching into the back seat for his bag. He pulled out a banana and a bottle of water he'd packed that morning. The boy's eyes followed his movements closely. When Keanu offered the banana, the child practically snatched it from his hands and began eating ravenously. As the toddler ate, Keanu pulled out his phone. This was clearly an emergency. A child alone on a highway was in serious danger. He dialed 911, keeping his voice calm as he explained the situation to the dispatcher. "Yes, I found a child, a little boy walking alone on Boulder Highway. No, there's no one else around him. He appears to be around 3 years old. No, he hasn't spoken to me yet. Yes, he seems physically okay, just scared and hungry. Yes, I'll stay with him until officers arrive." The dispatcher told him police would be there within 10 minutes. Keanu thanked her and ended the call, turning his attention back to the boy who had finished the banana and was now watching him with those same wide eyes. "The police are coming to help us find your family," Keanu explained softly. "They're good people who will help you get home." The toddler's lower lip trembled slightly at the mention of home, and fresh tears welled up in his eyes. "Hey, it's okay," Keanu said quickly. "Everything's going to be all right." He reached out slowly and gently wiped a tear from the boy's cheek with his thumb. "You're safe now." The child clutched his stuffed rabbit tighter and leaned a little toward Keanu. Taking the cue, Keanu carefully put his arm around the small shoulders, offering comfort. The boy didn't pull away. They sat like that as the minutes passed, watching the last rays of sunlight disappear behind the mountains. The highway was growing darker, and Keanu was increasingly grateful he'd spotted the child when he did. The thought of this little one alone on the road after nightfall made his stomach turn. In the distance, blue and red lights appeared, growing brighter as they approached. The boy tensed against Keanu's side. "Those are the police lights," Keanu explained. "Remember I said they were coming to help? They're going to help us find your family." 2 police cars pulled up behind Keanu's vehicle. He gave the boy's shoulder a reassuring squeeze before stepping out to meet the officers, leaving the car door open so the child could see him the whole time. "Mr. Reeves?" One of the officers approached, looking slightly surprised to find a Hollywood actor at the scene. "Yes, I found him walking alone about 20 minutes ago," Keanu explained, keeping his voice low. "He hasn't spoken yet. I gave him some food. He was really hungry." The female officer nodded. "Thank you for stopping. We've already had a report of a missing child matching his description from a motel about 2 miles down the highway." Relief washed over Keanu. His family reported him missing. Something in the officer's expression made him pause. "The motel manager called it in," she said carefully. "Said a guest mentioned a child might be missing. We're still trying to locate the parents." Keanu frowned. "What do you mean, might be missing? And why weren't they watching him? This highway is dangerous." "We're looking into all that, sir," the officer assured him. "For now, let's focus on getting him somewhere safe." The second officer, a kind-faced man with salt and pepper hair, approached the car and knelt by the open door. "Hey there, little guy. My name's Officer Tom. What's your name?" The toddler pressed himself against the seat, clutching his rabbit. "He hasn't spoken to me either," Keanu said. Officer Tom smiled gently. "That's okay. We'll figure it out." He turned back to the boy. "We're going to take you somewhere safe and warm, and we'll find your family. Would that be okay?" The child looked at Keanu uncertainly. "These officers are here to help," Keanu reassured him. "I can come too if you want." To everyone's surprise, the boy finally spoke, his voice tiny and hoarse, as if he hadn't used it in a while. "Come." The female officer raised her eyebrows. "Seems he's taken a liking to you, Mr. Reeves." Keanu nodded. "I'll follow you to the station." As they prepared to leave, Keanu helped the child into the police car, making sure he was properly secured, in a booster seat the officers had brought. The boy wouldn't let go of Keanu's hand until he promised again that he would follow right behind them. Driving behind the police car, Keanu's mind raced with questions. How had such a young child ended up alone on a highway? Where were his parents? The officer's words about the motel manager's call seemed odd. Why would someone only mention a child might be missing? A responsible parent would be frantic. Something didn't feel right about the situation. Keanu had a sinking feeling that whatever they discovered at the police station would be worse than a simple case of a child wandering off. As they drove through the neon-lit streets toward the police station, Keanu watched the small silhouette of the boy's head in the car ahead. He hadn't planned on spending his evening like this, but he couldn't shake the feeling that finding that child had not been a coincidence. Something told him he was meant to be on that stretch of highway at that exact moment. Whatever happened next, he was going to make sure that little boy was safe. He owed him that much. The police station buzzed with activity as Keanu followed Officer Tom through the doors, the little boy now clinging to his hand. Despite the late hour, the place was alive with ringing phones and officers filing paperwork. Several heads turned as they walked in, surprise registering on faces at the sight of the famous actor. "Let's get you two somewhere quiet," Officer Tom said, leading them to a small room off the main area. It had a couple of soft chairs, a table with coloring books and crayons, and a shelf with toys and stuffed animals. "This is where we talk?" "To kids. Thought he might be more comfortable here." Keanu nodded gratefully and helped the boy into one of the small chairs. The child hadn't let go of his stuffed rabbit since they'd met on the highway. His tiny fingers locked around it in a death grip. "I'll get him some juice and snacks," Officer Tom said. "Detective Patel will be in shortly to talk with you both." As the officer left, Keanu knelt in front of the boy. "Are you feeling a little better now?" he asked gently. The toddler looked around the room, his eyes lingering on the shelf of toys before returning to Keanu's face. He gave a small nod, but still didn't speak. "Would you like to color while we wait?" Keanu pulled the coloring books closer and spread out some crayons. The boy hesitated, then reached for a blue crayon with his free hand, still clutching the rabbit with the other. Keanu opened a coloring book to a page with a simple rocket ship. The child began coloring slowly, his movements careful and precise for someone so young. The simple activity seemed to calm him. A knock at the door announced the arrival of Detective Patel, a woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense expression. She carried a juice box and a small package of crackers, which she set in front of the boy. "Thank you for staying with him, Mr. Reeves," she said, pulling up a chair. "I understand you found him on Boulder Highway?" Keanu explained everything, while the detective took notes from first spotting the child to their arrival at the station. The boy continued coloring, occasionally sipping his juice, but Keanu noticed he was listening. "Has anyone come forward to claim him?" Keanu asked when he'd finished his account. Detective Patel's expression tightened slightly. "Not exactly. We're still piecing things together, but the situation is unusual." "What do you mean?" She glanced at the child, then back at Keanu. "Perhaps we could step outside for a moment." Keanu looked at the boy, who immediately tensed, his crayon pausing mid-stroke. "I promised I wouldn't leave him," he told the detective. "Could we talk here? Just keep our voices down?" Detective Patel considered this, then nodded. She moved her chair closer and lowered her voice. "The motel manager who called mentioned a young couple with a child checked in 3 days ago. Paid cash for the week. This morning the couple left without the child. The cleaning staff found toys and children's clothes still in the room this afternoon." Keanu felt his stomach drop. "They left without him? On purpose?" "It appears that way. The manager thought they might have gone out for the day and would return, but when he saw the missing child alert come across his phone, he called us immediately." "So they abandoned him?" Keanu couldn't keep the anger from his voice. The detective held up a hand. "We don't know the full story yet. We're reviewing security footage from the motel and surrounding businesses. The couple paid cash and used what we now believe were fake names, so we're working to identify them." Keanu looked at the little boy, who was now watching them with those wide, intelligent eyes. Had he understood what they were saying? The thought that his own parents might have intentionally left him behind was too horrible to contemplate. "What happens to him now?" Keanu asked. "Child Protective Services has been notified. They're sending someone over, but it's getting late. He'll likely be placed in emergency foster care tonight while we continue investigating." The boy's crayon dropped to the table. His lower lip trembled as tears filled his eyes. "Hey, it's okay," Keanu said quickly, moving to kneel beside him again. "These people are here to help you." The child shook his head vigorously, and for the second time that evening, he spoke. "No go." Detective Patel's expression softened. "He seems to trust you, Mr. Reeves." Keanu looked from the detective to the frightened child. An idea was forming in his mind, something unexpected and possibly complicated, but somehow it felt right. "What if he stayed with me tonight?" he suggested. "I'm at the Four Seasons. He'd have a safe place to sleep, and I could bring him back in the morning when CPS arrives." Detective Patel looked surprised. "That's highly unusual, Mr. Reeves." "So, is this whole situation?" Keanu pointed out. "He's been through enough today. New people, a strange foster home. That's a lot for anyone, especially a kid his age." The detective considered this. "I'd have to clear it with my supervisor, and CPS would need to do an emergency approval. There would be paperwork. I'm happy to fill out whatever's needed," Keanu said. "I just think he needs stability right now." Almost as if on cue, The boy reached out and grabbed Keanu's hand. His small fingers wrapped around Keanu's larger ones, a silent plea that spoke volumes. Detective Patel's resolve visibly wavered. "Let me make some calls." While she stepped out, Keanu sat with the boy, helping him color the rocket ship. Blue for the body, red for the flames shooting out the bottom. Simple, normal activities that felt surreal under the circumstances. Gay. "Like space?" Keanu asked, pointing to the rocket. The boy nodded. "Me too," Keanu said with a smile. "The stars are amazing. Maybe we can see some tonight from the hotel window." 20 minutes later, Detective Patel returned with a stack of papers and a surprised expression. "My supervisor has approved it, and CPS gave emergency temporary authorization, given the unusual circumstances and, frankly, who you are." Keanu felt relief wash over him. "Thank you." "This is just for tonight," she emphasized, handing him the paperwork. "CPS will meet you at the hotel at 9 a.m. tomorrow. An officer will need to escort you both there, and will need the hotel information and your contact details." As Keanu filled out the forms, Officer Tom returned with a small backpack. "We found this in the motel room. It has some clothes and a toothbrush." The boy's eyes lit up at the sight of the blue backpack with planets and stars on it. He reached for it eagerly when Officer Tom set it down. "Look at that," Keanu said. "Space stuff. You really do like rockets and stars, huh?" For the first time, the hint of a smile crossed the child's face as he hugged the backpack. Once the paperwork was complete and arrangements made, they prepared to leave. Detective Patel knelt in front of the boy. "You're going to stay with Mr. Reeves tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow, okay?" she said gently. "You're safe, and we're going to find your family." The boy looked at her, then at Keanu, before giving a small nod. The ride to the hotel was quiet. Officer Lisa, who had been assigned to escort them, drove while Keanu sat in the back with the child. The boy stared out the window at the lights of Las Vegas, his eyelids growing heavy as exhaustion began to take its toll. By the time they reached the Four Seasons, he was leaning against Keanu's arm, fighting to stay awake. The hotel staff, discreet as always, barely blinked at the sight of Keanu Reeves arriving with a police officer and a sleepy toddler. The manager was quickly summoned and briefed on the situation. "We'll arrange for some appropriate food to be sent up," the manager assured them. "And perhaps some extra towels and toiletries suitable for a child?" "That would be great, thank you," Keanu said, impressed by their professionalism. Officer Lisa helped them get settled in the suite, waiting until the room service arrived with a light meal and the requested items. The boy sat at the table, his legs dangling from the chair as he nibbled on chicken fingers and apple slices. His eyes were heavy, but he refused to let sleep claim him completely. "I'll be back with CPS in the morning," Officer Lisa said as she prepared to leave. "Call if you need anything during the night." After she left, Keanu helped the boy wash up and change into the clean pajamas from his backpack. They were covered in stars and planets, matching the backpack's theme. "Space pajamas to go with your space backpack," Keanu observed. "You really love the stars, don't you?" The boy nodded sleepily. The suite had 2 bedrooms. Keanu tucked the child into the second one, making sure his stuffed rabbit was securely in his arms and the nightlight was on. "I'll be right next door if you need anything," he promised. "Just call out." The boy looked up at him with those serious eyes. "Thank you," he whispered. The words so soft Keanu almost missed them. Keanu felt something tighten in his chest. "You're welcome, buddy. Get some sleep now." He left the door ajar and settled on the couch in the living area of the suite, his mind racing. Who would abandon their child at a motel? What circumstances could possibly lead to that? And more importantly, what would happen to this little boy tomorrow? Keanu ran a hand through his hair, feeling the weight of responsibility. Something told him this strange encounter on Boulder Highway was just the beginning of an even stranger story. Whatever happened next, he knew one thing for certain. He wasn't walking away from this until he knew the child was safe. In the quiet of the hotel suite, with the Las Vegas skyline twinkling beyond the windows, Keanu made a silent promise to the sleeping boy in the next room. He would get to the bottom of this no matter what it took. Keanu woke to the sound of soft footsteps padding across the hotel suite. For a moment, he was confused. Then the events of the previous day came rushing back. He sat up on the couch, where he'd fallen asleep, and saw the little boy standing in the doorway of the bedroom, clutching his stuffed rabbit. "Good morning," Keanu said with a gentle smile. "Did you sleep okay?" The boy nodded, rubbing his eyes with his free hand. His hair stuck up in all directions and his space pajamas were rumpled from sleep. "Hungry?" Keanu asked, checking his watch. It was just after 7, 2 hours before CPS would arrive. Another nod from the boy. "Let's order some breakfast then," Keanu said, reaching for the room service menu. "How about pancakes?" The child's eyes lit up at the mention of pancakes, and Keanu couldn't help but smile. It was good to see a normal reaction from the boy after everything he'd been through. While they waited for breakfast to arrive, Keanu helped the child wash up and get dressed in clothes from his backpack, a green t-shirt with a rocket ship and jeans. There was something intimate and humbling about helping such a small person with these everyday tasks, buttoning the tiny buttons and tying the miniature shoelaces. "You know," Keanu said as he combed the boy's hair, "it would be easier to talk to you if I knew your name." The child looked at him through the bathroom mirror. His expression suddenly guarded again. After a long pause, he whispered, "Tommy." "Tommy," Keanu repeated, feeling a small victory. "That's a great name. Nice to officially meet you, Tommy." The boy, Tommy, offered the slightest hint of a smile in return. Breakfast arrived, and Tommy's eyes widened at the stack of pancakes topped with fresh berries. As they ate, Keanu tried to make light conversation, hoping to learn more about the child's situation. "Those space pajamas are really cool," Keanu said. "Do you want to be an astronaut when you grow up?" Tommy nodded, his mouth full of pancake. "That's awesome. You know, I once played a guy in a movie who could fly. Not quite the same as going to space, but it was fun to pretend." This seemed to interest Tommy. He swallowed his food and asked, "You pretend in movies?" Keanu nodded. "That's what actors do. We tell stories by pretending to be different people." "Like playing make-believe?" Tommy asked, his voice gaining a little confidence. "Exactly like that," Keanu said, encouraged by the boy's engagement. "Do you like to play make-believe?" Tommy nodded enthusiastically. "I play Space Explorer. Mommy made me a helmet from a box." It was the first mention of his mother, and Keanu tried to tread carefully. "Your mom sounds nice. Does she play space games with you?" Tommy's face fell, slightly. "Sometimes, when she's not tired or sad." "And what about your dad?" Keanu asked gently. Tommy poked at his pancakes with his fork. "He gets mad a lot. He and Mommy fight." Keanu's heart sank. The picture forming in his mind wasn't a happy one. "I'm sorry to hear that, buddy." Before he could ask another question, there was a knock at the door. Keanu checked his watch. It was only 8:30, earlier than expected for CPS. "Stay here and finish your breakfast, okay?" he told Tommy, who nodded, looking nervous again. Keanu opened the door to find Detective Patel and Officer Lisa, along with a woman in a neat blazer who introduced herself as Ms. Chen from Child Protective Services. "Sorry to arrive early," Detective Patel said, "but we have some developments in the case we wanted to discuss." Keanu invited them in, introducing them to Tommy, who watched the newcomers with wary eyes from his seat at the table. "Tommy, this is Ms. Chen," Keanu explained. "She's here to help figure out what happens next." Ms. Chen approached Tommy with a warm smile. "Hello, Tommy. Those are some very cool space shoes you have on." Tommy looked down at his light-up sneakers but didn't respond. "How about you finish your breakfast while I talk with these folks?" Keanu suggested. Tommy nodded, and Keanu led the 3 visitors to the other side of the suite where they could speak quietly. "What's happened?" Keanu asked, keeping his voice low. Detective Patel pulled out her tablet. "We've identified the parents through the motel's security footage and a partial plate number from a traffic camera." She showed Keanu a still image of a young couple, a tired-looking woman with blonde hair and a thin man with a scruffy beard. Their names are Lily and Danny Carson, Detective Patel continued. Both have records: minor drug offenses, petty, theft. They're in their early 20s, and based on our investigation, they've been struggling financially. Have you found them? Keanu asked. Not yet, Officer Lisa said. But here's where it gets strange. This morning we received a call from an insurance company's fraud investigation unit. The Carsons took out a substantial life insurance policy on Tommy 6 months ago. Keanu felt his blood run cold. What are you saying? Detective Patel's expression was grim. Yesterday morning they filed a missing persons report in North Las Vegas, claiming Tommy had been kidnapped from a shopping mall. They were quite distraught, according to the responding officers. But they had already left him at the motel, Keanu said, struggling to make sense of it all. Exactly, Detective Patel nodded. And here's the thing. The timing of the report suggests they abandoned him at the motel, drove to the mall, and then claimed he disappeared there. Ms. Chen shook her head sadly. We've seen cases like this before. It appears they were setting up an insurance scam. File a kidnapping report, wait for the worst to be presumed, then collect the insurance money. But they had to know he'd be found eventually, Keanu said, horrified. That's the truly disturbing part, Detective Patel said. Based on where you found him, a dangerous highway at dusk, they may have been counting on a different outcome. The implication hung heavy in the air. Keanu looked across the room at Tommy, innocently finishing his pancakes, unaware of the conversation about him. That's monstrous, Keanu whispered. It is, Ms. Chen agreed. And it's why we need to proceed carefully. Tommy is now officially in protective custody. We've located his maternal grandmother in Phoenix. She didn't know about any of this and is understandably shocked. She's driving in today to meet with us. What can I do? Keanu asked, surprised by how invested he felt in Tommy's welfare after just one night. The three officials exchanged glances. That's partly why we came early, Ms. Chen said. Tommy seems to trust you, which is remarkable, given what he's been through. Normally, we'd place him in emergency foster care until his grandmother arrives, but we're concerned about adding another transition for him right now. You want him to stay with me a bit longer? Keanu guessed. Detective Patel nodded. If you're willing. Just until his grandmother gets here this afternoon. It would give us time to prepare her, and Tommy wouldn't have to adjust to yet another new environment for just a few hours. Keanu didn't hesitate. Of course. He can stay as long as needed. There's one more thing, Officer Lisa added. We need to question Tommy gently about what happened. A child psychologist will join us, but having you present might help him feel safe enough to talk. Keanu looked over at Tommy again. The boy had finished eating and was now carefully arranging the berries that had topped his pancakes into what looked like a solar system on his plate. I'll do whatever helps him, Keanu said. They spent the next hour with Dr. Winters, a kind-eyed child psychologist who specialized in trauma. She sat on the floor with Tommy, using toys to help him express what had happened. Keanu sat nearby, a reassuring presence as Tommy slowly began to open up. Through play and gentle questions, Tommy revealed pieces of his story. His parents had told him they were going on a special trip. They'd checked into the motel and told Tommy they needed to go get something from the car, but they never came back. After waiting a long time, he got scared and tried to find them. I looked and looked, Tommy said quietly, moving a small toy car across the hotel carpet. Then I went outside to find Mommy and Daddy. I walked and walked. That must have been scary, Dr. Winters said gently. Tommy nodded, his lower lip trembling. A big truck almost hit me. Then I was on the big road. I was trying to go home. Keanu felt his chest tighten at the thought of how close Tommy had come to being seriously hurt or worse. If he had driven by just a few minutes later or taken a different route back to his hotel. You're very brave, Tommy, Keanu said, catching the boy's eye. And you're safe now. As the interview concluded, Detective Patel pulled Keanu aside. We've issued an arrest warrant for the Carsons. Every officer in Nevada is looking for them. Good, Keanu said, unable to hide the anger in his voice. What they did, I can't even imagine. Neither can I, Detective Patel agreed. But the good news is Tommy's grandmother checks out. She's his legal next of kin and has a stable home. She's been trying to get more involved in Tommy's life for months, but the parents had been keeping her at a distance. Keanu felt a mix of relief and an unexpected sadness. He was glad Tommy would be with family who cared about him, but he'd grown attached to the quiet little boy with the space obsession. When will she arrive? He asked. Around 3 this afternoon. We'll bring her here, if that works for you. Keanu nodded. That's perfect. It gives Tommy and me time for one more adventure before she gets here. After the officials left, promising to return with the grandmother, Keanu turned to Tommy with a smile. Hey, space explorer, how would you like to visit a real planetarium? I know a place where we can see all the stars and planets even during the day. Tommy's face lit up with genuine excitement for the first time since Keanu had found him. Really? With rockets too? With rockets too, Keanu promised, holding out his hand. What do you say? One more adventure? Tommy grabbed Keanu's hand without hesitation, his previous wariness forgotten. Yes, please. The Las Vegas Natural History Museum wasn't as grand as some of the museums Keanu had visited in other cities, but its planetarium was impressive. He'd made a quick call before they left the hotel, and the museum director, thrilled at the prospect of a visit from Keanu Reeves, had arranged for a private showing. Tommy's eyes were wide as saucers as they entered the darkened dome of the planetarium. His small hand gripped Keanu's tightly, not from fear but from pure excitement. The museum's astronomer, a friendly woman with a shock of curly gray hair, greeted them warmly. Welcome, space explorers, she said, bending down to Tommy's level. I hear you're a fan of the stars. Tommy nodded enthusiastically. I'm going to be an astronaut, he declared with more confidence than Keanu had heard from him yet. Well then, you've come to the right place, the astronomer said with a wink. Take a seat and we'll blast off in just a minute. They settled into the reclined seats at the center of the dome. Keanu lifted Tommy onto his lap so he could see better, and the boy leaned back against his chest, face turned upward in anticipation. The lights dimmed completely, and suddenly the dome above them transformed into a perfect night sky. Stars bloomed across the darkness more than you could ever see in the light-polluted city. Tommy gasped, his body going completely still in wonder. That's the night sky as we'd see it tonight if all the city lights went out, the astronomer explained. Now, let's take a journey through our solar system. The view shifted, zooming in on the moon, its craters and mountains cast in sharp relief. Then they were flying past Mercury, Venus, and onto Mars, with its rusty red surface. Mars. Tommy exclaimed, pointing upward. That's where I want to go. A fine choice, the astronomer laughed. It's the most likely planet for humans to visit next. As they journeyed through the outer planets, the massive, swirling storms of Jupiter, the beautiful rings of Saturn, Keanu found himself almost as captivated as Tommy. There was something humbling about seeing the vastness of space, especially after the intense personal drama of the past 24 hours. When the show ended and the lights slowly came back up, Tommy remained staring upward as if trying to burn the images into his memory. That was awesome, he whispered. It sure was, Keanu agreed. Thank you, he added to the astronomer. My pleasure, she said. And I have something for our young astronaut. She handed Tommy a small gift bag with the museum's logo. Inside was a model rocket kit, a planetarium book designed for children, and a small astronaut figure. Tommy's face lit up as he examined each treasure. What do you say? Keanu prompted, gently. Thank you, Tommy said, hugging the bag to his chest. As they left the planetarium section, Keanu checked his watch. They still had a couple of hours before Tommy's grandmother was due to arrive at the hotel. Should we check out the dinosaurs while we're here? He suggested. Tommy nodded eagerly, and they spent the next hour wandering through exhibits of prehistoric life. The boy seemed to be coming out of his shell more with each passing minute, asking questions and sharing facts about dinosaurs that he'd learned somewhere along the way. It was during a quiet moment, as they sat on a bench sharing a snack from the museum cafe, that Tommy asked the question Keanu had been dreading. "Are my mommy and daddy coming back?" Keanu set down his water bottle, choosing his words carefully. "The police are looking for your mom and dad right now, but I just learned that your grandmother is coming to see you today. Do you remember her?" Tommy's face brightened. "Grandma Rosie? With the cookies and the big dog?" "That sounds like her," Keanu said, relieved at Tommy's positive reaction. "She's driving a long way just to see you." "Is she mad at me?" Tommy asked, his voice suddenly small again. Keanu's heart broke a little at the question. "No, buddy, she's not mad at you at all. She's very excited to see you. But I got lost. Mommy says getting lost is bad." Keanu turned to face Tommy directly, placing his hands gently on the boy's shoulders. "Tommy, listen to me. What happened? Wasn't your fault. Not one bit of it. You didn't get lost. You were very brave when you were all alone. And now lots of people are working hard to make sure you're safe and happy." Tommy seemed to consider this, his young mind working to process concepts that would be difficult for anyone, let alone a 3-year-old. "Will you come to Grandma Rosie's house too?" he asked finally. The innocent question caught Keanu off guard. I can't come live there, buddy. I have my own home and my work. But maybe I could visit sometime if your grandma says it's okay." Tommy looked down at his shoes, clearly disappointed. "Oh. Hey," Keanu said softly. "This isn't goodbye yet. We still have a few hours together, and I was thinking we could build that rocket model back at the hotel. What do you think?" That brought the smile back to Tommy's face, and they finished their tour of the museum in good spirits. On the drive back to the hotel, Tommy chatted more freely than he had since Keanu found him, pointing out buildings and asking questions about everything he saw. Back in the suite, they cleared the coffee table and opened the rocket model kit. It was designed for older children, but with Keanu's help, Tommy managed to snap the major pieces together. His little tongue stuck out in concentration as he carefully applied the stickers that decorated the sides of the rocket. "There," he announced proudly when they finished. "Now it can go to Mars." "Sure can," Keanu agreed, checking his watch again. Tommy's grandmother would be arriving soon, along with Detective Patel and Ms. Chen from CPS. "Tommy, your grandma will be here in about half an hour. Is there anything you want to do before she gets here?" Tommy thought for a moment, then pointed to the window. "Can we see if we can spot Mars? The Star Lady said it might be visible." It was still daytime, but Keanu didn't have the heart to explain that planets weren't visible in daylight. Instead, he lifted Tommy up to the window and they looked out at the vast sky above the desert landscape surrounding Las Vegas. "I don't see it right now," Keanu said, "but it's out there, and someday, when you're all grown up, maybe you really will go to Mars. I'll wave to you when I get there," Tommy promised solemnly. A knock at the door announced the arrival of Detective Patel. She entered with Ms. Chen and an older woman with warm eyes and silver-streaked hair pulled back in a neat bun. "Tommy?" the woman called, her voice thick with emotion. Tommy's head whipped around. "Grandma Rosie!" he squealed, wiggling out of Keanu's arms and running to her. She knelt down and caught him in a fierce hug, tears streaming down her face. "Oh, my sweet boy. I've been so worried." Keanu stood back, watching the reunion with a lump in his throat. Rosie looked up at him over Tommy's shoulder, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Mr. Reeves," she said, "I don't know how to thank you for finding him, for keeping him safe." "No thanks needed," Keanu said honestly. "He's a great kid." Detective Patel stepped forward. "We have some updates on the case," she said quietly to Keanu. "The Carsons were apprehended trying to cross into Arizona. They're in custody now." Relief washed over Keanu. At least Tommy wouldn't have to worry about his parents coming back for him, or worse, trying to complete their terrible plan. Ms. Chen was speaking softly with Rosie, explaining the legal situation and next steps. Tommy, still clinging to his grandmother, looked over at Keanu with a mix of happiness and sadness in his eyes. Keanu crossed the room and knelt down beside them. "Tommy, I have something for you." He pulled out a business card and handed it to Rosie. "This has my contact information. If Tommy ever wants to talk about space or rockets or anything else, you can reach me here. Rosie took the card, clearly touched by the gesture. That's very kind of you. And, Keanu continued, reaching into his pocket, I want you to have this. He pulled out a small polished stone, deep blue with flecks that sparkled in the light. It's a lapis lazuli. Some people say it looks like the night sky full of stars. I've carried it with me for good luck on movie sets, but I think you should have it now. Tommy's eyes widened as Keanu placed the stone in his small palm. My own piece of sky? Your own piece of sky, Keanu confirmed, to remind you to keep looking up. Tommy clutched the stone tightly, then, to Keanu's surprise, threw his arms around his neck in a fierce hug. Thank you for finding me, he whispered. Keanu hugged him back, his throat tight with emotion. Thank you for being so brave, he whispered back. As he watched Tommy leave hand in hand with his grandmother a few minutes later, Keanu felt a strange mix of sadness and fulfillment. In just over 24 hours, his life had intersected with Tommy's in a way neither of them would ever forget. Detective Patel lingered behind after the others left. You did a good thing, Mr. Reeves, she said. Not just finding him, but giving him what he needed afterward. Safety, kindness, adventure. That boy will remember you forever. Keanu looked out the window at the vast sky that had so captivated Tommy. I think I'll remember him forever too, he said quietly. And he knew it was true. Of all the roles he'd played in his life, the brief role of Tommy's protector might be the one that stayed with him the longest. 6 months had passed since that fateful evening on Boulder Highway. Keanu sat in his living room in Los Angeles, a cup of tea cooling beside him as he reviewed scripts for upcoming projects. His phone buzzed with a message, and he smiled when he saw who it was from. It was Rosie, Tommy's grandmother, sending another photo. This had become something of a monthly tradition, updates on Tommy's life in Phoenix. Keanu opened the message to find a picture of Tommy proudly holding up a science fair certificate from his preschool. His project, unsurprisingly, was about the solar system. First place in his age group, the message read. He insisted on sending you a picture right away. The blue stone is still his lucky charm. He carried it with him today. Keanu felt a warmth spread through his chest as he studied the photo. Tommy looked healthier, happier, his smile wide and his eyes bright with excitement. The changes in just 6 months were remarkable. He typed back a quick reply. Tell him congratulations, from me. That solar system looks amazing. A future NASA scientist for sure. Setting down his phone, Keanu leaned back and let his mind drift to the events that had followed his discovery of Tommy on that desert highway. The trial of Lily and Danny. Carson had been mercifully quick. Faced with overwhelming evidence, they had accepted a plea deal. Both were serving time, Danny for child endangerment and insurance fraud, Lily for a lesser charge after she cooperated with prosecutors and admitted the scheme had been primarily her husband's idea. The insurance company had launched an investigation into their agent who had approved the unusually large policy on Tommy without proper verification. The whole system had failed the little boy, but at least now there was accountability. Rosie had been granted permanent guardianship of Tommy, a process Keanu had helped with by providing character references, and he suspected, by the weight his
name carried, he'd hired a top family lawyer to ensure everything proceeded smoothly, though he'd kept that detail from Rosie. Some help was best given quietly. His phone rang, interrupting his thoughts. It was Detective Patel, who had kept in
touch after the case, Mr. Reeves, she greeted him warmly. I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time. Not at all, Keanu assured her. And please, it's Keanu. After everything we've been through, I think we're past formalities. She laughed. Fair enough, Keanu. I actually have some news I thought you'd want to hear directly from me. About the Carsons, he guessed. No, about something you suggested. Remember how you mentioned wanting to do something to help other children in similar situations? Keanu sat up straighter. After Tommy had gone to live with his grandmother, Keanu had approached Detective Patel with an idea, a foundation to Support children who were victims of abandonment or exploitation, something good that could come from the awful situation Tommy had endured. The proposal was approved by the department. Detective Patel continued. We can officially partner with your foundation to provide additional resources for endangered children. The commissioner is very enthusiastic about the collaboration. That's fantastic news, Keanu said, genuinely excited. I've been working with my team to set everything up. We're calling it the Highway Stars Foundation. Perfect name, Detective Patel said. It captures both where this all began and Tommy's love of space. Exactly. The focus will be on emergency support for children in crisis, but also prevention, helping families before they reach desperate points. No child should ever be abandoned on a highway. Or anywhere else, Detective Patel added softly. They talked for a few more minutes about the logistics before ending the call. Keanu immediately reached for his laptop to email his business manager about the green light from the police department. The foundation had been in the planning stages for months, and now they could finally move forward. As he typed the email, Keanu thought about how one random decision, to take Boulder Highway instead of the main road back to his hotel that evening, had set all of this in motion. If he'd been a few minutes earlier or later, if he'd taken a different route, if he hadn't noticed the small figure on the side of the road, the thought still made him shudder. His phone buzzed again with another message from Rosie. This one contained a short video. Keanu pressed play and saw Tommy sitting at a kitchen table, the blue lapis lazuli stone visible on the table beside him. Hi, Mr. Keanu. Tommy waved enthusiastically at the camera. I won first place. My teacher said my planets were the best because I remembered that Saturn isn't the only one with rings. Thank you for the space book you sent. Can I show you my medal when you visit next time? The video ended and Keanu found himself smiling broadly. He and Rosie had arranged for him to visit whenever he was in the Phoenix area, which had happened twice so far. Each visit had been filled with space talk, model rocket launches in the backyard and stargazing if the timing allowed. Tommy was still fascinated by the night sky and everything beyond Earth's atmosphere. Keanu quickly recorded a video response. Hey Tommy, congratulations on your first place win. I'm not surprised. You know more about space than most grown-ups. I love the solar system you built, and yes, I can't wait to see your medal when I visit. Keep reaching for the stars, buddy. He sent the video, then returned to his laptop to finish the email about the foundation. As he worked, he couldn't help but reflect on how this unexpected detour in his life had affected him. The film he'd been working on in Las Vegas had wrapped successfully and was now in post-production. But while his career continued as normal, something had shifted inside him. The Highway Stars Foundation wasn't just a tax write-off or a public relations move, it was deeply personal. He had seen firsthand how quickly a child's life could hang in the balance and how the right intervention at the right moment could change everything. 2 weeks later, Keanu stood at a podium in a conference room at the Las Vegas Police Department. Cameras flashed as he and Detective Patel formally announced the launch of the Highway Stars Foundation. This foundation was born from a chance encounter on Boulder Highway, Keanu told the assembled press. A little boy, abandoned and in danger, showed me how quickly a child's life can be put at risk, and how important it is that we as a community respond. He didn't share Tommy's name or specific details of the case, respecting the child's privacy, but he spoke passionately about the Foundation's mission to provide immediate resources for children in emergency situations and support for families in crisis. No child should ever feel abandoned or unsafe, he concluded, and no family should ever feel so desperate that abandoning their child seems like the only option. After the press conference, Detective Patel approached him with a small gift bag. This is from Tommy, she said. Rosie sent it over for today's announcement. Inside was a handmade card covered in stars and planets drawn in crayon. Thank you for finding me, the childish handwriting read. Beneath it was a small handprint in blue paint, the same deep blue as the lapis lazuli stone Keanu had given him. Keanu carefully tucked the card into his jacket pocket, close to his heart. Will you be at the fundraiser next month? He asked. Detective Patel. Wouldn't miss it, she replied with a smile. Rosie mentioned she might bring Tommy if that's okay. She thought it might be healing for him to see something good coming from what happened. I think that's a great idea, Keanu said. already looking forward to seeing the boy again. As he left the police department and stepped into the bright Nevada sunshine, Keanu felt a sense of completion. What had begun as a horrifying discovery on a desert highway had transformed into something meaningful and lasting. The foundation would help countless children in years to come. And Tommy, the brave little boy who had walked alone on Boulder Highway, trying to find his way home, was thriving in his new life. His love of space and stars remained undimmed, his resilience a testament to the incredible strength of children even in the face of unimaginable challenges. Keanu looked up at the vast blue sky above Las Vegas, thinking of Tommy's handprint on the card in his pocket. Sometimes the most important journeys were the ones you never planned to take. And sometimes the most important roles weren't played on a movie set, but in real life, when it mattered most. Somewhere out there, Tommy was probably looking up at the same sky, dreaming of space and stars and all the possibilities that now lay before him. And that, Keanu thought, was the happiest ending he could have hoped for.